Hi everyone, and welcome back to Speak Up. If you're new here, we're so glad you found us. And if you've been listening for a while, thank you for coming back. Before we begin, we'd love it if you hit subscribe. It's a simple way to help this podcast reach more people who need it, and it keeps our community growing. Today, we're diving into something that so many of us struggle with: staying consistent. We all know the feeling of starting strong, full of motivation, and then suddenly, it's gone.
And that's exactly why this episode matters, because consistency isn't just about finishing what you start. It's the key to actually making progress in anything meaningful. Without it, you're stuck in that cycle of starting over again and again. But when you do figure it out, the results build quietly, day after day. In this conversation, we're going to share why consistency feels so hard and the small, realistic shifts that can help you stick with it in a way that feels natural. So, if you've ever wondered why you lose momentum and how to finally keep it, this one's for you.
You know, it's funny how we always start with that rush of excitement, whether it's the first day of learning something new, joining a class, or setting a goal. There's this buzz, almost like a fresh start. But then it slips. One busy day turns into two, and suddenly you realize a whole week has passed. I think that moment, when the excitement fades and real life creeps in, is where so many of us lose our balance. And it's not because we don't care. It's because motivation just doesn't stay at that high level forever.
Yes, and that's the part that feels so heavy, right? Because when the energy disappears, you start questioning yourself. Like, why can't I just stick with it? Or maybe I'm not disciplined enough. And those thoughts are so sneaky, they eat away at your confidence. But the truth is, it's completely natural for motivation to fade. We're not built to feel the same spark every single day. And yet, we blame ourselves when the rhythm gets shaky, instead of realizing it's part of the process.
Exactly. And I think what makes it worse is when you don't see quick results. You put in effort for a few days, maybe even a couple of weeks, and then look around and think, nothing's really changed. That's discouraging. And in those moments, it's so easy to give in to distractions, scrolling on your phone, saying I'll do it tomorrow, convincing yourself it's not worth it. It's almost like your mind looks for an escape the moment progress feels invisible.
And that invisibility can feel brutal because in the beginning, you expect to see or feel something right away. And when you don't, it feels like failure. But it's not. Progress often happens quietly in ways we don't notice until much later. The problem is when we can't see it, we lose trust in ourselves. We tell ourselves the story that we're not capable. And that's where momentum really dies, not in the lack of ability, but in the lack of belief.
Yeah. And when you lose that belief, even small obstacles feel huge. Suddenly, one missed day turns into a spiral of guilt. And the more guilty you feel, the harder it is to get back on track. It becomes this loop. You miss a day, you feel bad, you avoid it more, and before you know it, the excitement you had at the start feels like a distant memory. I think that's the real danger. Not the missed days themselves, but the meaning we attach to them.
That's such a powerful point, because at the heart of it, losing momentum isn't about laziness or weakness. It's about being human. Life distracts us, self-doubt creeps in, results feel slow, and suddenly we convince ourselves we've failed. But the truth is, that cycle is normal. And if we can just see it for what it is, a phase, not the end, then we can break free from that guilt and start again without carrying the weight of shame. That shift changes everything.
You know what's interesting? We often think consistency has to look like these big, impressive actions, like hours of study or huge leaps every day. But honestly, that's what makes us quit. The pressure is just too heavy. I've noticed that when I break things down into tiny pieces, it feels so much lighter. Even something as small as 10 minutes can make a difference. And the crazy thing is, when you do those small things regularly, they actually last longer than those dramatic bursts of energy.
Yes, and it's almost funny how our brains resist that idea at first. We tell ourselves 10 minutes isn't enough, or that's too small to matter. But it really does matter. Those little moments build trust with yourself. Every time you show up, even for a few minutes, you're proving to yourself, I can keep going. And that trust adds up quietly. It's like watering a plant. You don't flood it once and expect it to survive forever. You give it small sips, day after day.
I love that image. And I think part of the beauty of small steps is how playful they can feel. There's no pressure, no heavy expectation. You can experiment, try things out, even make mistakes, and it still counts. That makes it easier to come back the next day because it doesn't feel like a burden. I sometimes laugh at myself like, that's all I did today? But in the long run, those tiny actions stick far better than the dramatic plans I used to abandon.
That's so true. And what's powerful is how those small steps begin to shape your identity without you even realizing it. You stop saying, I'll start tomorrow, because you already did something today. Even if it was tiny, you showed up. And showing up every day, even in a small way, creates momentum. That feeling of being in motion is so much more motivating than waiting for the perfect moment to do something big. Honestly, the little steps are the ones that carry you the farthest.
Yeah, and when you think about it, those small steps are what make consistency feel sustainable. Big goals are exciting, but they can feel overwhelming, almost like climbing a mountain without a map. Small steps, though, they're like putting one foot in front of the other. You don't have to worry about the whole mountain, you just focus on today. And before you know it, you look back and realize how far you've come. That quiet progress, it's what makes the journey possible.
That's the magic, isn't it? The progress sneaks up on you. One day you realize those little things you almost dismissed have built into something solid. It's gentle but powerful. And the best part is it feels lighter. No pressure to be perfect, no crushing guilt, just steady movement forward. That's why the small steps matter. They're not just actions, they're little promises to yourself. And when you keep those promises day after day, you become someone who doesn't just start, but someone who keeps going.
You know what I've realized? The routines that actually stick are the ones that have some emotion in them. Like, if something feels flat and mechanical, I can force myself for a while, but eventually I let it go. But when I connect with it emotionally, when it feels fun or meaningful or even just a little curious, that's when it lasts. It's almost like your heart pulls you back to it, not just your head. And that pull is so much stronger than discipline alone.
Yes. It's like the difference between checking off a chore and doing something that actually lights you up. When it feels like a chore, your body resists it. You drag your feet, you make excuses. But when there's emotion, maybe joy or passion or even just interest, suddenly it doesn't feel like work anymore. You look forward to it. That's the secret to making a routine feel natural. It doesn't have to be forced because it's something you want to return to.
Exactly. And I think so many of us get stuck because we treat consistency like a job description, this cold list of things we have to do. But what if it was more about weaving in things you actually care about? When I choose routines that connect with me emotionally, I don't even think of them as discipline. They just blend into my life. And honestly, it makes me wonder how many goals we've abandoned simply because they didn't feel alive enough.
That's such an important point because when something feels alive, it feeds you back. It gives you energy instead of draining it. And that's when you stop counting the minutes or measuring whether it's productive enough. You're just there, present, because you enjoy it. And that presence is what creates the habit. It's not a battle anymore. It becomes the soft rhythm, one that feels good to step into again and again.
Yeah, and you can almost feel the difference in your body. When it's mechanical, it feels heavy, like you're dragging yourself through it. But when it's emotional, there's this lightness. Even if the action is small, it leaves you feeling better afterward. That's what keeps you coming back. Not guilt, not pressure, but the memory of how it made you feel. And once you taste that, it's hard to walk away from it.
Exactly. That's why I think the real challenge isn't about forcing routines, but about finding the ones that connect with you. Because when they connect, you don't need to push yourself as much. They pull you in naturally. And that pull, that feeling of being drawn back to something because it matters to you, that's what turns a fragile habit into a lasting part of your life. It's not about mechanics. It's about meaning.
You know what I've noticed? Whenever I try to do something completely alone, it feels so much easier to give up. Like, if nobody knows I'm working on it, then nobody notices if I stop. And that silence almost gives me permission to quit. But the moment I share it with someone, even just a friend, something shifts. There's this quiet voice inside that says, they know, I can't just walk away. It's not pressure exactly. It's more like a gentle reminder that I'm not in this by myself.
Yes, that's so true. There's something powerful about being seen in your efforts. Even if the other person doesn't say much, just knowing someone is aware gives you that little spark of accountability. And encouragement, even in the smallest form, makes such a difference. Like when someone checks in and says, "How's it going?" It suddenly feels real. You're not just holding it inside your head anymore. That connection makes the weight feel lighter.
Exactly. And I think what's beautiful is that accountability doesn't have to be this harsh, strict thing. It can be really gentle, just to check in or even sharing your progress with someone who cares. Sometimes it's less about them pushing you and more about you wanting to show up because you know they're there. It creates this sense of trust that someone believes in you enough to notice, and you don't want to let that belief go to waste.
Right. It's like walking beside someone instead of being pushed from behind. That image always sticks with me. When you know someone is walking next to you, it feels safe to keep moving forward. You're not dragging yourself along, and you're not scared of falling behind because you're together in it. And honestly, that's such a comforting feeling. It turns something that felt heavy and lonely into something shared, something lighter.
Yeah. And when you really think about it, that's why support and accountability are so powerful. They don't just keep you on track. They remind you of your own strength. When someone else notices your effort, it's almost like they're holding up a mirror to show you what you might have missed in yourself. That reminder can be the thing that keeps you going on the days that you'd otherwise stop. And those are usually the days that matter most.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? We're not meant to carry everything alone. Sharing progress doesn't make us weaker, it makes us steadier. Because when you realize you don't have to do it all by yourself, the weight lifts. Suddenly, the journey doesn't feel so overwhelming. You've got someone beside you, cheering you on, reminding you to keep going. And that reminder, that little spark of support, can be the very thing that turns a fragile effort into something lasting.
You know, I've been thinking, maybe the reason we struggle so much with consistency is because we treat it like a task, like it's something we have to check off every day. But what if it's not about effort at all? What if it's about identity? When you see yourself as the kind of person who simply shows up, then showing up isn't something you force, it's just what you do. It becomes part of who you are, not some endless box to tick.
Yes, that makes so much sense because when you think of yourself as someone who always quits or someone who can't follow through, you carry that story with you and it shapes every choice, even the small ones. But when you shift that story, when you start saying, "I'm someone who sticks with things," or "I'm the kind of person who keeps promises to myself," the choices change naturally. It's not this big battle anymore. It's just you living out the identity you've chosen.
Exactly, and it's almost invisible in the way it works. You don't wake up every day asking, do I feel motivated enough? You just do it, because it's who you are now. Like, if you see yourself as a runner, you don't debate whether you'll go for a run, you just put on your shoes. The identity carries you forward, and that's so much lighter than relying on discipline alone, which always runs out sooner or later.
Yes, and I think that's why this shift feels so freeing, because discipline often feels heady, like you're dragging yourself through mud, but identity feels natural, like slipping into a rhythm that already belongs to you. And when you choose that identity with intention, when you say, "This is who I am now," it rewires the way you show up. Suddenly, it's not about forcing habits, it's about living them almost effortlessly.
And the beautiful part is identity builds with every small action. Every time you show up, even in the tiniest way, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. And over time, those votes add up. They write a new story about you, one that feels stronger, steadier, and more grounded. That's why this mindset shift is so powerful. It's not about chasing motivation, it's about quietly becoming.
Exactly. And once you see it that way, consistency isn't something you struggle to hold on to anymore. It becomes woven into who you are. You don't have to chase it or fight for it or punish yourself for slipping. You simply live it. And that's when the real transformation happens, because once that shift takes root, it no longer feels like something outside of you at all. It becomes part of you, part of your life, part of who you are.
Wow, what a conversation. I just want to take a moment to say thank you, truly, to everyone who's been here with us today. Time is such a precious thing, and the fact that you chose to spend yours with us means so much. Our hope is that this episode gave you something real, something you can carry into your own life. Even the smallest shift in how you see consistency can change everything.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing this time with us. We don't take it lightly. Our wish is that listening here feels valuable, like it's adding something to your day and to who you're becoming. If you try even one little step from today's talk, you might feel the difference right away. So until next time, keep showing up gently, consistently, because you're worth it.